Ever feel like you're doing this teaching thing alone? You don't have to be. Shared teaching is all about sharing the workload through the power of collaboration and teamwork. Together, we'll walk through all the difficult parts of teaching and learn how to streamline our processes, fine-tune our time management, and develop a more manageable workload. If that sounds like a dream come true to you, then welcome to the Shared Teaching Podcast. Let's share in the teaching to make those dreams a reality. Now here's today's Shared Teaching. Hello and welcome back to the Shared Teaching Podcast. I'm your host, Susan. Thank you so much for being a listener here on the podcast. Today we have another Writing Tip Wednesday, where I thought it would be a great time to talk about building independent writers. Now, building independent writers is the key for students to develop ownership and confidence in their writing. So in this episode, I'm going to share some strategies that are going to help your students become more self-sufficient in their personal narratives to increase their writing stamina, use helpful writing tools, and build their confidence. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the first, which is increasing the writing stamina. If they can't write for periods of time sitting there for your, let's say, 20 minutes of independent writing time, then they're going to drive you crazy. They're going to be off task. They're not writing. So they really have to build up to it, just like we want them to build up to a certain amount of time of reading independently. We have to build that same muscle for them to write independently. So one of the first steps to doing that is you're going to have to work on shorter periods of time and then push them to write for a longer time, a little bit more each time they write, so they're building up that stamina. So start small. If you're a second grade teacher, it might be 10 minutes of sustained independent writing. If you're a first grade teacher, I might suggest 5 minutes. Same thing with kindergarten. You really just kind of gauge the class. What I like to do, since it's still early in the school year here in the US, is I set a timer and I just watch the room, and I don't tell the kids I'm setting the timer, at least the first time I do it. The next time I do it, it's kind of like a game. We want to beat our previous score, so I do tell them. But the first time I just set the timer, I look around the room, and I'm watching to see when they start kind of giving up, getting off task. That's the part that I stop it at. And I say, oh, we got to 4 minutes of writing time today. Awesome. Let's try for an extra minute tomorrow. And then the next day we do it again. And then this time I set the timer for 5 minutes, but I stop it the minute someone gets off task. And if it's the same student that's always getting off task, then I kind of ignore them and I just work with them one-on-one to see if they can build their writing stamina. But I don't punish the rest of the class for that one student that just can't get it together, right? So that's how we build that stamina. So it's important to emphasize the goal during the independent writing time is to get their ideas down on paper. I'm not worrying too much about spelling or grammar. I just really want to build their stamina. So writing sentences the best they can, spelling the best they can. We will address those things as the writing lessons continue in previous weeks, or not previous weeks, but upcoming weeks. There you go. Okay, so another part of building writing stamina is we really want to encourage students to kind of write through this struggle. So sometimes they're going to get up to a point where they really feel stuck, and you just need to remind them it's okay to write even if they don't know exactly what they're going to write about. Just getting started sometimes is the whole battle. Once you get started, sometimes you get in a flow and you can continue writing from there. The other thing we want to do to kind of help build up our independent writers is to use writing tools. So once they've built up their stamina, we can show them what the right writing tools are to help them feel more confident with working independently. These tools are going to give them kind of some structure and support. They're going to allow the students to navigate the writing process without the constant need for you or any kind of teacher guidance. So one of my favorite tools, and I teach this in my writing units for second grade, is the graphic organizer. And I don't really call it a graphic organizer to my students. I just kind of give it to them, and I call it, this is their planner for the day. And the planner looks different. So it could be a story map, it could be a sequence chart. It's just something to hold their ideas while they're in that drafting phase and they're planning their writing. This is going to give them that roadmap of what they're going to do when it's independent time and they're needing to write. They're not just going to stare at their paper not knowing what to do, right? They're going to actually be like, oh, I'm going to use my plan now. Oh, this is what I put here. So, this is the picture I drew. I'm going to write about this picture I drew, right? So there's some kind of connection there. So that's the purpose of the organizers. The other thing I like to do, and again, it's in all my units, is anchor charts. And this is something that I project on my smartboard, but you can also print them out. You can give them individual students, and it's just going to give them kind of a reminder of what they're working on for the day and a reference to go back to it. This is going to help them feel empowered as they move through the writing process on their own. Next and last tip I have for you today to build independent writers is to increase student confidence. When we increase their confidence, it really helps students believe in their ability to write well. They're more likely to take ownership of their stories and tackle challenges head on. So we really want to kind of empower our young writers by giving them that confidence, right? One of the ways we do that is we can build choice. So I like to teach a whole class writing lesson, and I will model the day's topic. And then the students go to write, and I do tell them what they're writing about, but they have choice still on what they pick, if that makes sense. So for example, I might say, today we're going to write about a time I got hurt. And I'll tell them my story of when I got hurt. And then they're picking from all the times in their life they were hurt for which one they want to use for their story. So they're excited to talk and write about that time because it's something that they chose. Even though I'm kind of steering them towards the topic, they still have some autonomy in what they want to do. Now, another thing that we do is celebrate small victories. So when a student completes their first draft or they successfully revises their story, we make sure to recognize these efforts. Maybe we have a small writing celebration to celebrate our published work, or just in a quick share time, I might say, I really love how you described that moment. And that's going to go a long way, not only into encouraging your students to keep pushing forward, but also in those students that are struggling a little bit, they're going to see, oh, that's what I should be doing. And they're getting another teaching moment from you by you praising a student and what they did and shared. Peer feedback is another one that I really like to use to build confidence. And I try to do a share time each day, but it's not always like an author's chair type share time because unfortunately we don't always have time for that, right? But students do share their writing with a partner, and then they receive positive feedback on their writing from their partner. And that's also going to reinforce the idea that they're very capable writers. So taking the time to set up what your partner expectations for this share time are is going to really make this process feel safe and supportive for those students that don't have as much confidence as some other students. Last but not least, I like to give my students time to reflect on their writing. So after completing a personal narrative assignment, maybe they're thinking about what went well and what they're proud of, and it's just kind of giving them a reflection that builds their confidence, but also helps students become more aware of their growth as writers, which further increases their independence. So if you're looking for more writing help, of course, I have tons and tons of podcast episodes on the Share Teaching Podcast, but I also have a free kindergarten through third grade writing skills progression chart that you can sign up for and get. And then I also have Opinion second grade writing unit that's fully up and in my TPT store. I do have the narrative writing unit coming very soon. I'm hoping by the end of this month, if not sooner, because I'm also working on a Halloween writing unit that I'm hoping to get published by the end of the week. So if you are not a TPT store follower of mine, go to Share Teaching on TPT click on that star, and then you'll be notified when it hits my store officially. And I am so sorry for all these delays, but you know how life is. So stay tuned for an all-new episode coming up later this week and an all-new Writing Tip Wednesday next Wednesday. Bye for now. If you've loved this show, then join me in sharing the teaching,
hitting that subscribe button,
and leaving us a review on
iTunes
so we can be found by more teachers like you who are ready to start sharing the workload. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Find new episodes each week on sharedteaching.com. Thanks for listening to the Shared Teaching Podcast.